Dreams. We're all born with them. Dreams of adventure, of finding a sense of purpose, meaning, of reaching our full potential. And wherever your dreams take you, your journey starts with UAC.
I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Hello and welcome to Let's Chat. We're here today to talk to our panel of experts on communication and media degrees. Today on our panel, we have from UTS, Dr. May Hansford, Deputy Head of School of Communication, Director, Teaching and Learning, Faculty of the Arts and Social Sciences. Welcome. We also had from Macquarie University, Professor Julian Knowles, Discipline Chair, Media and Communications. Welcome to you as well, Julian. And from UNSW, we have Sharma Bonnet-Rook, Future Students Faculty Partner. And welcome to you as well. It's really lovely to see and speak to you all, and so that we can discuss media and communications for students who are looking at that type of study at university. I'm going to go to you, Julian. Can you please describe to us or tell us what a communications or media degree is all about?
Good question. It's an ever-expanding field because I think most of you will, be aware, particularly since the pandemic, that most of our communications is now being, conducted online and through digital media. So a media program and a communications program is really directed towards providing the skills to students to be able to work effectively in this space. And the space itself is incredibly broad. So it's everything from, journalism and non-fiction writing to PR, social media, online media, podcasting, screen practice and production, even web and interactive is part of the picture there. So it's tremendously broad, but essentially everything comes under this banner of conducting communications and using media, which is increasingly digital these days, and developing the literacies and the skills to be able to communicate across these platforms. But most of you can probably see that there's a huge range of potential jobs that a student might get in this area, which is everything from working in the media itself. You might work for a broadcaster or a news outlet or something like that. But actually, even firms, they need to conduct communications. They have stakeholders, they have audiences, they have customers. So there's a whole range of jobs that sit there in just about every kind of business or every kind of industry that require people with the kinds of skills that you will get in a communications and media degree.
Thank you for that. May, I'm going to pass over to you. Majors, and I know that Julian has touched on, some of the different areas that students can go into, but, it's not just about writing, is it? It's not just about putting pen on paper.
No, certainly not. So in our majors at UTS, you have a choice of 6 at the moment. There will be 7 for next year. And students choose a Bachelor of Communication Journalism, Bachelor of Communication Media Arts and Production, Digital Social Media, and so on. And one of the advantages they have at UTS is that they can choose a second major. And so you might choose a journalism specialisation, but recognising what Julian said, the breadth of the field, you can choose a second major and marry those and give yourselves, many more opportunities for your career paths. So we have, as I said, 6 majors and a 7th coming on board for next year, media business.
Wow, that's a lot for students to choose from. Sharma, how do students sort of dig down into those courses to find out which sort of best suits them? Like, how do they know which pathway to take? If they've got this broad sense of, I want to do communications, but how do they actually delve down?
Absolutely, and I think that's a great question. I don't know about yourselves, the other people on the panel, but I certainly know. I mean, I studied communication myself, and when I started the program, I had a very different idea of perhaps where I wanted to end up. I think the wonderful thing about media and communications is, as Julian mentioned, it is such a diverse and dynamic landscape that is consistently changing. So I think, at UNSW, what we really focus on, I guess, is not only teaching the technology, because you need to know how to use the tools that you're going to use in the workplace, but we also place quite a bit of emphasis on understanding, I guess, the theory, the social, cultural, and political aspects of the media, because those are skills that can really transgress or transcend across different sort of media roles as you progress through your career. And I think for students who, know that they have an interest in the media, look, we all consume media on an everyday basis. For me, I would really encourage students to think about how they consume media on a day-to-day basis, what they enjoy doing, how they respond to media, how it influences them, and think a little bit broader about the role of media, because those traditional sort of media roles, such as journalists or, even PR, shifting so much, and there are so many diverse sort of opportunities out there now that students can progress in things as well, like media arts and creative practice. When we're looking at 3D arts or special effects, things that certainly when I was at uni, they weren't even an option. So I think it's a really fantastic time for students to think big, see where their passions lie, how they engage with media, and really how they want to influence the world around them.
So would you say then, for a student to help with that research, I mean, I always say to students, look, go to the university open days and listen to people like yourselves talk about the different offerings. So would you say that that's a really good way to get involved and get that knowledge, to give them some sort of spur along to find what their passion may be?
Absolutely. We know that most universities now offer a range of different opportunities to engage. Obviously, last year, a lot of it was digital. Hopefully, we're moving a little bit more into some of that face-to-face and opportunities for students to come on campus. And look, it can be difficult, because certainly when you're coming out of high school, sometimes understanding, well, what's the difference between communications versus marketing versus journalism versus PR? So take those opportunities to come to the campus for open day, or to tune into different activities and engage with people like myself, Julian, like May. Ask those questions and express, this is what I'm interested in, this is what I want to do, how can I get there? I think the other fantastic piece is talking to current students, and a lot of those sort of types of events will have current students there that you can engage with, because they've lived it. They can tell you firsthand, this is what it's going to be like. So I think it's such a crucial piece. But also I'd say, once you're in the course, there are so many options. We talk about, you can often do a double major or do an internal transfer, do a double degree. So I always say to students as well, you're not locked in. Follow that passion, keep doing what you enjoy. But once you get into university, there are so many different options for you to pursue what you're passionate about and find that exactly that right place for you.
Yeah, that's a really good advice. I'm going to sort of step back one little bit now. Now we sort of know what communications is all about. For those students who are tuning in, who are not Year 12 students, or parents who might be listening in, and they're going into senior school, what kind of subjects do you think, Julian, that students should be studying in Year 11 and 12 that are going to help them be a little more successful maybe in that type of degree? Is there any kind of prerequisite or recommended studies?
There's no prerequisites. And I take a very broad view on this, and I imagine my colleagues would take a broad view on it too. In that, the most important thing is to take with you a passion for the media and for this kind of landscape. We see students, as I'm sure everyone else does, from a huge variety of backgrounds who come to this space for different reasons. We see school leavers who, you might have had a YouTube channel or you've volunteered on a radio station. Look, you might have done sciences or something, but it doesn't really matter. What's most important in all university study, in my view, is that you just have a great passion for what it is that you're going to do, because ultimately that's going to make you successful. And what a university degree should do is actually fire that passion right up to the next level. And that's where successful professionals come from. So, look, I could say things like, look, most of the media involves writing and research of some kind. So obviously, humanities style art subjects are, a good basis. If you struggle to write and you can't do English, you may have difficulties, but there may be areas of the media where you can move into which is less focused on text-based writing. So there's a way for you there as well. So I would take the sort of, and I think this is great advice for anyone leaving school, anyone going to university, is like, do what makes, what you're passionate about. And you will find a way you'll be strong at some things, you'll be less strong at other things, but that's the same for every student. Nobody is different. And you will excel within your strengths and you'll cover what you need to in any of your weaknesses. So I would not be discouraging any student who's sitting there right now who's gone, well, I've done chemistry and biology and all of this stuff, but you know what? I actually really want to do media and communications. I would say welcome. Like, just come, because to my mind, that is the most important thing, and it matters more than anything else.
And I think that is really fantastic advice, because here at UAC, that's what we're always saying to students. Do what you're passionate about, do what you love, because it'd be no good you doing courses that you're not very good at, because that's not going to do you any good at all. So I would expect that most people like yourselves would like to see students with that breadth of study, that where they've been really interested, and things cross over. I mean, let's face it, students, even if you're going to do science, need to be able to communicate. So
and there's science communicators. Look at all those great jobs, Dr. Carl, all of these people, science communicators.
Yeah, absolutely. May, could I just ask you, entry requirements? Now, I know the ATAR is the thing that we start with, but are there any other kind of entry pathways for students who maybe don't get that ATAR?
Yes. So, we have 69 at UTS as the minimum raw ATAR. That's excluding adjustment factors. And so students can go in and look to see what the different universities have as ways of, giving them extra points towards the course they're interested in. But if you don't get the ATAR that you need for the course that you're passionate about, you can do another communication course, and that then you can either do an internal course transfer at the end of the year, you apply for it, or you find ways of making that passion live through the things that are available to you. So you can use pathways you can come through. We have UTS College, the other universities have institutions like that. So it's associated with a university, and so you get more individualized attention, smaller classes to help you to build up your knowledge and expertise, and then you can come into the courses with some credit. So all of our universities have something along those lines. But there are a number of different measures. Even if you go to a TAFE course, that can be added to your ATAR to look at whether or not you can get into the communication course, and sometimes even with recognition of your learning in those TAFE courses. So there are lots of options. I think that people should, it's what Julian was saying, and Shashma was intimating in what she said too. You follow your passion, your curiosity, what gets you fired up. And there are always people, I think, who are not sure too. There are people who absolutely, they know exactly what they want to do. And there are other people who know they sort of want to work in a communication field, but they're not quite sure how it's going to turn into a career. Well, one of the ways is, of course, coming to our open days, but beforehand, do a bit of a look on the websites to see what's out there, so you know what questions to ask. you know, where your interests might lie. And there are a lot of careers in communication, and I would encourage people through whatever pathway they find to get to our courses, that it's a really stimulating, dynamic area. I mean, it means that, you know, we don't have anything set in stone. You know, this is what we teach. All of our subjects change all of the time. They're reviewed, they're changed. We teach the same sorts of critical skills, approaches to how you read and understand images and text. But you know, everything develops over time, and we're developing along with it, and you will too. So you come to us, you know, with that passion or curiosity or interest at the least, and then we build your skills, we build your capacities. And one of the things that I find interesting is graduates talk about how great the practical skills are, but the employers talk about how they value the critical skills that the students bring, their problem solving capacities they bring to the workplace, because they've done a course, a proper university degree where we marry theory and practice.
Yes, and that's very true. Those the students who come out being able to look at, you know, specific projects from different angles can certainly bring a lot to a workplace, which is, you know, which is great, really good. I'm going to go back to the entry thing. Does communications degrees offered through early entry, so for schools recommendation schemes, Julian?
Yeah, we have some of those schemes available at Macquarie. We also have an interesting project that we started up that may be relevant to some of the people listening today. It's called the Media Diversity Project. So most people will have realised there's been a lot of debate recently about the lack of diversity in the Australian media. And that's sort of some partnered research that we did with some other institutions on, you know, this issue of the faces that we see on our television, the commentators that we hear, all of this stuff. There's a fundamental lack of diversity, and it doesn't really reflect the kind of country that we are. So this special scheme that we've operated, targets students from non-English speaking backgrounds, Indigenous backgrounds, low SES students and so on, and it offers them a tailor-made pathway with support to get through the program, and it's partnered with the ABC and with Nine Entertainment. So the students also do internships with Nine or the ABC. You know, and this is why it's kind of exciting. I mean, these media organisations also know that this is an issue for them, right?
Yeah.
And they are ready to hire graduates who will diversify their workforce. So if you're sitting out there and you come from a non-English speaking background or Indigenous background, or you're from a low SES family, there are tailor-made opportunities for you that will actually lead to employment. So that's one of the most exciting things that we've started recently, because we really believe in trying to do something about this for the industry, and we can help because we're on the front end of this, and they are the employers.
Fantastic. That's fantastic news, and it's really exciting to see that our universities are doing or having programs like this to help change the face of media, which is fantastic. I'm going to go to you now, Shoshma, talking about careers and things like that. Will students in a communications degree get some kind of work placement? Do they do it onshore? Can they do international exchange, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely, Trudy. And obviously, I can't speak for the other two institutions, but I would say that I imagine quite broadly across the board that hands-on experience, or what we refer to as sort of work integrated learning, is a really critical part of studying media and communications. Not only it takes you into the workplace to learn skills, but what we see, it's also really critical to build those networks within the industry. And a lot of our sort of graduates may find full-time employment or go on to work with some of those partners that they've then actually conducted sort of an internship with. I mean, at UNSW, we offer sort of credit-based arts and intern or media and arts internship course, and students can do that in their third year, and it's actually up to 150 hours in a host organisation. So that's a considerable chunk of time. It's something that you can put on your resume, you can include in your portfolio, and it's really that experience. Similarly, we have, I think the other piece is people sometimes get worried about, well, where will I go? How do I find an internship? So, I think a lot of institutions now, we have a dedicated work integrated learning team who works with partner organisations to identify internship opportunities, and we advertise those and share those with our students. And I think it's about, because media is so diverse, it's also about finding placements or internships where students can really get the most out of that experience. And that might be a local placement with an ad agency or a newspaper, or it can actually be an overseas experience. So, we do have people that, yes, might be looking more at that communications in that international or development space, or people who, even going and doing work with the UN, but in that sort of communication sphere. So again, we really work closely with students to make sure, again, where their interests lie, that the placement aligns with that, and it's beneficial. I think what was incredibly positive is last year, essentially what I heard from our head of School of the Arts and Media is that there was still a big demand for internships. There were a lot of organisations still saying, we want these incredible, students, because it's that innovation, it's that thinking outside the box. It is this understanding of technology. And I mean, employers are looking for that. They're looking for people who can think creatively and who can bring those new perspectives. So it's a really exciting time. And I actually think, young people are best placed to shape the future of the media. So I think it's really exciting.
Sounds exciting. May, your university, can students do international exchange programs through communications?
Yes, of course. I mean, there have been some with the COVID-19 pandemic. There have been some constraints, obviously. But students have done international exchange programs, and we have those planned for the future, so they can go away for a semester. Where they can do combined degrees with international studies, go away for a year. And we also have a number of things, say, in some of our courses, we have within the subjects, we have collaborations with universities overseas. So we might have a project where international students who are located at a different university are working with our students to, build a project and have an outcome that's going to be relevant for both of them. So I think there are lots of opportunities. I was thinking, as Gillian was talking, that we have the Jambana pathways for our First Nations students. And that helps students not only get into the university, but helps them throughout their course. And with low SES, we too, like I'm sure or every university has this. And we also have that work integrated learning orientation. Students can do internships. They are strongly recommended to do an internship in their third year, but also within the majors, students will often do placements, and they have client coming in to give them briefings, so that idea, work integrated learning, is actually captures not only internships where you go to the organization, but also where the organizations come to the students, and in the classroom they brief you on something, and then you create the work. You have all of these options, and they come back and look to see what works best for them in their work environment. So, it's a great liaison. It's a great many opportunities, and they're quite diverse opportunities, but certainly international placements is for the future as soon as the borders are open. But we've like Shashma, we've continued internships throughout 2020, and we've had quite a bit of demand for that, and students have done either remote or when they could in the office internships, and it's worked out remarkably well, I think, because there's so much motivation on both sides. The employers want the students really want the work experience.
So it really sounds like our universities are getting students, really job ready, to be honest, and prepared for what's out in the marketplace.
Absolutely. I think it's a combination of the technical skills, the understanding of technology, the ethical and safety framework. So if you think about media arts and production, for example, you need to go through all of that, and to industry standards. That's what we're trying to do, is to create students or graduates who are ready for work.
Fantastic. I'm going to go to you, Julian, now, and I'm going to ask you, it's probably a big question, because
I like big questions.
who knows? Can you tell me, what major studies in communication or media do you think is going to meet future employment opportunities? It's a big one, isn't it?
Well, I kind of turn that question around and think about how are all of these, what we would understand as traditional areas, changing? And they're all changing really rapidly. So, if I'm a journalist, for example, 25 years ago, that meant something different to what it means now. So the concept of a journalist still exists, right? But it's mostly in the online space. It's almost entirely in the online space. And then we have new things like data journalism that is emerging, that didn't exist before public data wasn't available. So, most of you have probably seen these amazing stories that the ABC, for example, does, and they do them on their web apps where they have data visualizations. And, those journalists have gone in and they've found data sources and they've created stories out of data. That's an example of, what we understood to be the person with the notepad or the microphone and the, taking notes has completely transformed in this whole new areas. So, it's the same with screen practice and production. I mean, 20, 30 years ago, when I was young, it was like, oh, you'd be a filmmaker, and you're making films for the cinema or you're making them for television. Well, of course, now the broadcast media, are sort of declining and the online media are going up. So you've got Netflix now and you've got streaming platforms and you've got, just web video platforms that content is being made for. So if you see yourself as a screen producer now, you're seeing yourself in a really different way to you might have seen it 20 years ago. So I think all of these areas, PR, social media, social media is, only 10, 15 years old at most, So it's really, the question is, in what ways does my traditional understanding of media, these traditional jobs, how do they look different now? And therefore for us, those of us on the panel, the challenge is, how do we prepare students for an environment where it's moving at an incredibly rapid rate, where every year or two there's some major new development in platforms or technology or practices, and we put our students out there, it's like getting them onto a fast-moving train, right? We have to be running alongside the train and get them on it, you know what I mean? Because it's not standing still, it's moving incredibly quickly, which I find really exciting. Some people think it's a lot of work, right? When you're teaching people, because you've got to, I think as May said, you've got to keep revising your curriculum and keeping it up to date with what happened last year, what's going on now. But in other ways, that just makes it tremendously exciting. And it also, as a student and a graduate, you are going into an industry that's only just starting up. Like where it goes from here is just through the roof. So from an employment point of view, and you're thinking about your future and how useful your skills are going to be, mark my words, if you have these core literacies that we've spoken about before in problem solving, critical thinking, and then facility with technology and tools and all of these things, you go out there into the workplace, into the employment marketplace, people will want to hire you. Okay, I'm sure everyone feels the same thing. Every organisation, every firm needs people who are good at these things.
And I think too, if I can add to that, Trudy, as we take students through the years, everything changes over those 3 years. If your course is 3 years long, what you thought at the beginning might be very different to the end. But in the progress through those subjects you develop a portfolio. And you have a number of examples to show potential employers so that they can see what you can do. And that works right up until the moment you graduate, where we're adapting, changing assessments to meet those needs of the workplace.
Excuse me, have you got anything to add to that?
No, look, I would totally agree. And I think I touched on it before, the technology is part of it, but it's also all those additional skills. And I know at UNSW, we have a digital sort of publication called Newsworthy, it's actually managed by a past editor from Sydney Morning Herald. And it's where our media students can publish written articles, podcast, video. But not only do they get support in creating that engaging content, they then actually learn how to pitch their content. So how to connect with various online networks, how to use social media to reach out to the various sort of outlets. So, how in this new world of journalism, where you're probably not going to be working for a major publication that picks up every one of your stories and publishes it, how do you put yourself out there? How do you build a name for yourself? How do you build up that portfolio? And I think there's a certain thing around, this entrepreneurship, which is really what, and I don't think it's frightening. I think it's exciting that young people are, going to have this ability to really shape how they engage with the media and what they put forward. So yeah, I agree. I think it's really just capturing those skills, which is so important.
Yeah, so, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. I know here at UAC we've got quite a number of people who've done communications degree, and they do a variety of different jobs, and they're changing all the time as business does change all the time, and that's the workplace, isn't it? I'm going to stay with you, just say or ask you, can you give me a highlight or tell us a little bit about UNSW and what you would advise parents and students if they're wanting to go or thinking of a communications degree?
Absolutely. So UNSW, or the University of New South Wales, we're based in Kensington, or in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. So thanks to the light rail, we're now just a short trip away from Central Station, which is great. And we're obviously part of the Group of 8 University Coalition, but also our media programs are actually part of our brand new faculty, the Faculty of Arts, Design and Architecture at UNSW. So we're really excited. We offer 3 media programs, but we also offer a Bachelor of Media Arts, and we also offer majors in our Bachelor of Arts, Arts and Business. So, I think the wonderful thing is there are lots of different ways and different pathways for students to engage and to study media. Similarly, we talk about those entry pathways, and I think you can always look at doing a major in media culture and technology in the Bachelor of Arts and looking at it that way, or you can combine it with a double degree, which I wish I knew more about double degrees when I was at university, because it's just such a fantastic opportunity. We have people doing Bachelor of Media, Comms and Journalism with Bachelor of International Studies, or Bachelor of Media Arts with Bachelor of Computer Science. Like, there are just these really cool combinations that when you come out the other end, you have these incredible skill sets. So, I think that's one big asset for UNSW, and we're just really excited about the next cohort of students, and just we're supporting students. I think we all recognise as well that university is a big step, and we talk about all these wonderful things you can do. I think the other thing to know is that you don't do it alone. We have incredible support services. Our staff, you can hear Julian and May talking, like they're the ones in the classroom. They bring so many skills and expertise, and you just want to have that community around you. So it's a fantastic, exciting place to be and to take that next step. So.
Thank you. I'm going to pass over to Julian now, and I'm going to ask you exactly the same question.
Thanks. So at Macquarie University, we're located in Macquarie Park on the north side of Sydney. Thankfully, we have a train station for the campus, which is the Macquarie University train station. So the state government's been doing a reasonable job of getting transport links into the major universities, which is actually really great, particularly when we're environmentally conscious and we want to get away from cars. But the Media and Communications program is located in what was the former Australian Film, Television and Radio School building, which is a purpose-built building on the campus. And AFTRS were in there for a number of years before they moved to Fox Studios. So it's a purpose-built, incredible facility with large screen studios, edit suites, recording studios, and also a radio station. And I can shout out to my colleague across there at UTS. We are partners with UTS in the 2SER radio station, so we have a radio studio in that building too for the students who are studying radio. We've organised the program around 5 majors: screen practice, journalism and non-fiction writing, PR and social media, online media, podcasting and radio, and interactive design. So you can see that they're all kind of modern, future-focused inflections on what we were speaking about before, which you might consider those traditional roles, but also the new roles that have sprung up since, in the past 5, 10, 15 years or so. The last year, there's a compulsory internship, which is our capstone, which is a media internship. And I spoke earlier about working with Nine Entertainment, the ABC, and a range of other partners to get students into these media internship experiences. We do also offer a major within our BA. And, BAs are things that people like if they want that really flexible kind of structure, but within a 3-year trajectory. We also offer double degrees, as Shashma was saying. So the university did a lot of work to make all of our degrees available as doubles. So that's this idea that instead of trying to chase after the market and, you know what I mean, like revise our degrees all of the time, why not let students actually mix and match double degrees and just make our structures interoperate well? So you can either do a BA or you can do a double degree with anything across the university as a 4-year pathway typically, but if it's an accredited discipline and it's a 4-year degree anyway, like law or something, then it goes out to 5. And then, but also within the media degree, like others have said, you can do a double major within that degree. So you don't have to say, I only want to be a screen producer and I don't want to do journalism. You can say, I can do 2 full majors in both, but I'm sure with a lot of the universities here, you can still have elective space. And so whatever you choose to do as your major, it's not like you're suddenly locked into one thing and you can't do anything else. You can in fact do 2 full majors, or you can do electives. And so I think flexibility is a really important thing in modern curriculum design. It just allows students to tailor-make their own degrees in ways that are relevant to them.
Fantastic. I'll pass over to you, May.
I thought I might be next on this.
Funny.
So UTS is located centrally in that we're right next door to Central Station, and we also have the light rail very close. So it's very convenient. It's a modern university. It does very well in the global rankings, and we certainly have, I think we're the #1 for full-time employment outcomes for our graduates at the moment. And like the others, we have, as I said before, specialists. You can choose a Bachelor of Communication in Digital and Social Media, but you can marry that with a second major that just broadens your scope. And you can change your mind too, go to electives, have electives from other majors. There are some restrictions just with the equipment. We have a portable media equipment store. We have Bon Marche Studio. We've got all the editing suites, the sound suites. We have another degree here called the Bachelor of Music and Sound Design, and we have all of the facilities for that. And animation is coming over to us as well. But the Bachelor of Communication is really captures, I think, both what we think of as careers now and the opportunities for what we can create in how many years' time, so that you're building those skills, using those facilities to set yourselves up to work in something that you find interesting right from the get-go, or as you do your course. And we too have the combined degrees with law, with creative intelligence and innovation, with international studies. I mentioned that before. And this, of course, means that you're not doing a 3-year degree, you're doing a combined degree. So you end up with 2 degrees, so you take a bit longer. So 4 or 5 years, depending on which course you're doing. So I think it's, there's a sort of a vibe at university. Everyone's so pleased to be back on campus, but we're also using the experiences we've had in the last 12 months to incorporate more flexibility, more opportunities for self-paced learning, for modules, for things that help you to work through things, so that when you come to class, you feel pretty confident and you get the most out of it. But I think Julian and Shashma have sort of, we're all doing a similar sort of thing. We're trying to set students up for the best outcomes and also the best experiences while they're at university, because goodness, it's a fantastic way to network, to meet friends, and to set yourselves up for your future careers, because no doubt there will be plural future careers.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for that. I think out there you would agree that we've had some fantastic information from our wonderful panelists here today. I want to thank you very much for joining us. I want to thank our panelists for their information. And I hope that you join us on another time when we are discussing other areas of study through these webinars. Thanks for joining us.
UAC represents many institutions across New South Wales and the ACT. The universities featured in today's webinar are a small selection of the many institutions which offer the courses discussed today. Students should research all university offerings so they can make informed decisions regarding their future study.